Good morning to everyone and happy Thursday. You're listening to Awesome Radio, real talk for real men. We're so glad that you are tuned in and we're looking to have a discussion that will edify you, build you up, and glorify God at the same time. So we thank God for you. And we're here every Thursday morning at 10 a.m. right here on Awesome Radio. Um, My name is Pastor Dan Lawson, and I have with me,
Other than that, Farrow.
God bless you, brother. Good to see you on another Thursday morning.
Good to see you.
We have Pastor Trey Forbes also, who's entering the building as I speak. We'll give him a few minutes to get himself together, and then he'll come and sit down with us, and we'll move on from there. But we thank God for each and every one of you. Hope you've had a good week, Elder.
Yeah, it's been a good week. Been a good week. No complaints. No complaints.
Listen, have you picked your football team for this year?
Well, I'm still with the same. I'm still with the same guys. I'm a Giants fan, and I like the Chiefs. I kind of pull with them a little bit.
You know what? I like that. You're a
Yeah,
Giants fan, but you like the Chiefs.
yeah. I pull with the Chiefs. I kind of
That makes sense because I mean it's okay to be loyal to a team, but when
yeah.
teams when players move around so much and you know you should be able to have a sidekick. Okay, I'm a Giants fan, but you know what? Looking at all these teams, I think Kansas City is a favorite for this year. That's
Well, I've been kind of looking at them for a while because we've been kind of lacking, and you know,
kind of like it.
it is what it is. I don't have no. I'm not. I'm not. I don't run away from it like my friends from Dallas. Or that like Dallas. I don't run away from it. We've been lacking,
That
and
might be the worst team to be a fan of right now, the Dallas Cowboys. Because
well, I told the fan yesterday. I said, you know, they've been getting knocked around, and I talk a little trash, but I said, look, I ain't gonna say nothing about Sunday, but if y'all lose to us Thursday, well, I'm gonna talk trash.
you know what? It would be time to talk trash, and they need to help you talk trash if they lose to the
Well, he
Giants.
said
Oh well, that's what the guy said too. That's what he said. He said, I'm gonna burn up my stuff.
Oh, yeah, oh my.
Lord have mercy.
Okay, Mr. Forbes, you're our leader.
yeah,
Take us away.
praise the Lord. All right, look, what a beautiful day to be alive, everybody. You listen, just being here is awesome to be on Awesome Radio this morning on Real Talk for Real Men. We're going to talk about leadership today.
Leadership
Yeah, leadership.
in terms of the nation, or are we
Yeah.
drilling down to some other levels?
Well, we'll talk about leadership because I'll say this. I feel like that. Well, I don't want to do that one because I don't want to go that area. But yeah, just leadership, just men and leadership, being a leader.
Men and women.
Well, we're going to talk about men and women, but as it relates to men for today. And
Oh, okay.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
It's-
This is
it's-
real talk for real.
Yeah,
men.
that's where I'm trying
So
to go.
we can
All
get
right,
away.
let's do this on the show. You can be a leader and be a female. How about that?
Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
I see where you're trying to head. With this.
I
No,
know.
I think. Can I say something? I think that's good. That we should keep it general.
Yeah,
Leadership in general would encompass whoever the leader is.
that is true. That is true. And I see where Pastor Lawson probably want to go, and I just want to say this one thing: you you can be a leader, and it don't. And in the Bible shows leaders in all realms, but we're gonna talk about leadership as men. Well, excuse me, we're talking about leadership in general, as Elder did say, but we have to be leaders in our communities because we're men talking about it.
Yeah, if you really want to, I guess you could make an argument
No.
that the greater need right now is to encourage leadership among men. I believe that's a greater need.
Okay.
And I don't want to get into why I think that, but I really think that there's a bigger deficit right now with male leadership, a gap that needs to be filled.
But also, if I can jump in, I think that a good male leader understands the strength of women too.
Yeah, that is so true. That's true.
Yeah, I don't see myself, looking back over my life of leadership, I don't see myself having performed great leadership without a woman being involved somewhere,
My God.
somehow.
Yes.
So,
Yes. I was looking at even something that was going on in my life, and I was thinking about where my wife stepped in and did something, and then even in the midst of a crowd I was talking to yesterday, somebody was talking about how in occasions how my wife had made them feel so comfortable, even in the church realm. An elder was there, and they said she just come out of nowhere, asking you how you doing and smiling and hugging and everything. That's a leadership quality.
yeah.
Because I really don't, I might not be the most touchy feely person, or as pastor, it might not be a good, it might not be. But I'll tell you this: she goes around and she's trying to make everybody feel welcome. But as in general, her style is a leadership style that's different than mine, and that's something that we need to recognize other people's leadership styles and roles in your organizations and in your life as well.
Well, God put Adam in the garden
Yeah.
as a leader, but he also said he needs help.
Man,
Yes,
he
sir.
was so right.
God knows he was right.
He was so right. He needed help. He might not have never got around to eating that apple if Eve wasn't there to help him out.
Yeah, that's true. All can come from a husband perspective, I guess. My God. Hey, listen, let me say this. I want to jump into a quote that John Maxwell had.
Who is John Maxwell?
John Maxwell is a motivational speaker, but he really got a lot of his thrust out of the churches, but it has spread out even in secular arenas. And so he got a book, 21
Irrefutable laws of leadership.
and I
Oh,
do
yeah.
have that book too.
I've had that book.
Okay, and so now this is just a quote that I want to quote from him. He says, "A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way." A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. And I can say that that's a good ideal part. That's a good ideal of what a leader would be for me. I want to say this: sometimes a leader don't necessarily always is in the positive arena. A lot of us suffer. I'm gonna say this: when good leadership is a blessing, bad leadership is a curse.
That's true.
You can get caught up. I look at nations, and I ain't gonna do too much of that, but I look at nations like South Korea, not South, North
Korea. Yeah.
North Korea. You look at North Korea, and Kim Jong Un's father, Kim Jong Il, grandfather. I can't even remember his whole name, but it was something similar, maybe Kim something other. But he was they consider him to be the esteemed, exalted father of their nation. And literally, he's technically supposed to be still the leader of the nation, even though he's dead. Do you know that some people would take an organization and drag it to death with them? Drag it right into death, drag it right to the ground with them. And they really didn't want to give up power, but death has this uncanny knack of terminating things. And so I've been walked right into politics real easy with that. but you can literally take something and drag it, slam down. I've seen churches, and y'all seen it as well. Churches that where pastors took and the organization, they grew an organization, might have grew it to phenomenal heights and turned around and let it die right out with them. And so even in our homes, my thing is, as a father, I'm trying to raise my sons to be leaders. Now I don't have any daughters, but when I have nieces. I'm trying to raise my nieces, my nephews to be leaders because we're suffering. We have a leadership deficit in a lot of areas. Not in all areas, but in a whole lot of areas, even in the home. One example of that for me, and then I'm just turn it over to you. When I had my son Robert, and I had my son Micah. Micah is a couple of years older than Robert. And so when Robert was going to be born, the first thought that I had was, I've always seen that competitive jealousy that's in families. So what I did, I told Micah, when you have your little brother, notice I said he have a little brother. I said this is one of the most important jobs you can have as a big brother, an older brother. I said, so you're gonna have to give him direction, guidance, this, that, and the other. And he's been doing that part without being. My son Robert was talking to me the other day about things that Micah says to him. He said, Daddy, you know that your biggest fan is Micah. Now, it'd be nice if he said it was him, but he said, Mike is he said, everything that you say, Mike could come right back around and he said. He tried, and then and so a lot of that in the process, he's always had a hand in knowing so when people came over to look for the baby, I can't wait to see the baby. Where the baby at? I said, you go in and talk to his big brother first. Congrats. We actually had a birthday cake and gifts for Micah when Robert was born. And we said, happy Big Brother's Day. And so, you see what I'm saying? So that he's always been included. You don't never see that sibling rivalry too strong now. Now, it did happen because it was natural. But I've always, one way or the other, tried to curb that by him being a leader in his little brother's life as well.
Good strategy.
Thank you. So, what do y'all think about the quote? And then we'll go back. What do you think about that quote when you hear a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, shows the way?
Well, the first thing that sticks out to me in that quote is, I think there ought to be a little slash there, knows the way or understands how to surround himself with people who knows the way. Because there have been a lot of leaders that were great leaders, not because of their own personal knowledge, but because they were very good at facilitating people around them that did have that knowledge or knew how to get that knowledge and used it and was willing to use it when they provided it for him. So, yeah, it's true that he has the knowledge, but I think it's important to point out that there's a lot of support staff that's needed in that piece of it.
I think that's good. I kind of like this. I remember we did something at the church that I was going to at the time that this book came out. We did a simulcast with it, and John Maxwell, actually, was doing it, and we were invited. And it was kind of a lot of churches actually did it at the time. And the idea was good, I think. And he comes out of a church background, even though, he was a trained pastor and actually pastored a couple of churches, and before he, that didn't, it went all right. And he learned some lessons from it. but he found his calling in doing the motivational thing, using his knowledge in that area. But yeah, I think that's good. I think there's a lot of things that are natural too, that when you actually lay them down and you go through those things, you'll see that they're productive, and it doesn't matter who the leader is. There's certain things that you need to be or do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna pull something up, and this elder, I know you know who this is. Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. That's by Peter Drucker.
We all know Peter Drucker.
Yeah, you know, elder, did you meet Peter Drucker one time?
I actually did. He came through the Girl Scouts of America when I was working there as the guard. I sat at a desk at the headquarters where people came in, so they had to come through me to go into the office building. And I actually did meet him. And I was actually reading some of his stuff because they had a library in there. So yeah, he was kind of at the top of the game then, you know what I'm saying? As far as, his books.
An economics class without reading about Peter Drucker. You couldn't even take, when I was in school, I'm talking about in college, and you couldn't take a business class without hearing about Peter Drucker, because he set up so many parameters and ideas around management.
And one of his management things, I forget the big book, the main book. I mean, all of his books did well, but I think the main one, I can't, management responsibilities. I forget how the number one book, but anyway, it was funny. The New York Times did an article on him, and they asked him, "Are you a good manager?" He said, "No." And it's fascinating. People can tell you things and not be good at it themselves.
Well, he observed what made good management.
Right.
So those principles of it. But he honestly and truly said that he wasn't. And like for me, I have a sibling that if you want something managed, they will manage it to a T. That's why in one of the realms where I work, that person is my executive assistant. And they literally, the things that I don't like to do, I'm more of a people person. And I could call, did you do this? Did it yesterday. Hey, I need this done. And when you turn around, I turn back, I can say, I need an Excel form with this, and this on it. And they literally will have that plus ready for me. And so, and I said, well, shoot, I'll give you part of what I get paid to handle that for me so I can do what I do more effectively and I can have a life. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you one other thing he said that was fascinating. The Girl Scouts of America at the time, he considered them one of the best managed organizations in the world. I mean, and he talked to, he dealt with CEOs and other companies, you know what I'm saying? But he considered those women well managed, you know what I'm saying, as a corporation.
Look, and we're going to break with this. John F. Kennedy, here's a quote from him. Leadership, one of our late presidents or ex-presidents years ago, leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. Another president we had, Ronald Reagan said, when you can't make them see the light, make them feel the heat. Now, I don't know exactly who he was saying it to. He made sound like a veiled threat. I don't know who it was for, but that was something that he said. But on that note, we're going to go into the sponsorship break. Get a little laughter so nobody said we're having a one-sided show. But you listen to Real Talk for Real Men, and we'll be back after this sponsorship break.
Hi, my name is Tracy. Thank you for listening to Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU.
Here's a minute to inspire fresh hope in your busy day.
I'll have to admit, my natural tendency is to do anything to avoid conflict. Yet, as I think about the serious conflicts I've had in my own life, I see times of greater personal growth than if the conflicts hadn't existed at all. I became aware of lessons I needed to learn, not only about others, but more importantly, about changes that needed to be made in my own attitude and actions. Had everything been peaceful, I honestly don't believe I would have stretched my way of thinking or changed as I needed to change. Years ago, I heard this insightful statement: never to disagree at all is a sign not of love, but of indifference.
This Hope Minute was brought to you by Hope for the Heart. To learn more, go to hopeminute.org.
Hello, my name is Hayden. Thank you for listening to Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU.
Surely in the family, God is with me. Surely in the family, God is with me. Surely in the family, God is with me.
All right, so we're talking about some great things today on Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM on your radio dial. And we're talking about on Real Talk for Real Men, how to handle conflict. And as a leader, but we're talking about leadership. I'm sorry, I got caught into the conversation of the program when the lady came in talking about hope, but they was talking about handling conflict. How do a leader handle conflict, Elder?
Wisely. Wisely. And I don't say that as a joke, but yeah, you have to be wise. You have to understand what the conflict is, what it really is, because you have to know both sides.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. If you hear one side, you don't have the whole picture.
Isn't there a scripture that says that?
Yeah,
it's in Proverbs.
Doesn't come to mind, but go ahead.
Y'all go ahead on. What do you think of Pastor Lawson?
Concerning handling conflict,
Mm-hmm.
A leader definitely needs to develop a strong ability to listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the reasons a lot of conflicts don't get, resolved, at all levels of life is because there's no one that can take the leadership and listen to what's going on, and that's that's a challenge. It's a challenge to listen in the midst of conflict, because one of the things that conflict does, it escalates emotions.
It do.
And when people get in their emotions, it's typically a loss of control. Everybody lose control of themselves. And so, you don't get the de-escalation that needs to be brought to the table. And then the listening, the ability to hear what's really bothering this person and the other person, or several persons, what's really bothering them, and address it. That's another thing a lot of times people do. They'll listen, but then they say, that's stupid. You should be better than that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Instead of understanding that, what, it's important to them. And if you don't realize that that person's issues are important to them, then you're not going to handle it very well.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to listen, but you also want to be empathetic, sympathetic, and empathetic And there are times when you also have to be decisive because, sometimes conflict is at the point where you need to do something extreme quickly, and you have to be decisive. You just can't let it escalate into somebody getting hurt. Sometimes you have to intervene and do something decisively.
That is so true. And the proverb we were looking for was Proverbs 18:17. And it says, the first one to plead his cause seems right until his neighbor comes and examines him.
What version is that?
That's King James. Oh, that's New King James.
Oh, okay. All
Okay.
right.
Let me read it from the King James. And I'm trying to get it to come through there. It's kept it right on King. It still kept it.
New King James.
It did. Hold on one second. It's going to come through. So it says in King James, he that is first in his own cause seems just, but his neighbor cometh in search of him. There's another. Let me see. Let me hit it from the NIV. That's another respected source. The New International Version. It says, in a lawsuit, the first to speak seems right until someone's come forward and cross-examines it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I never saw where somebody didn't tell their side of something. And that's why it's good not to jump to conclusions. Even after you hear somebody's side, go hear the other person's side if you got time. You can find some semblance of the truth, but sometimes even in the midst, have y'all ever just heard somebody tell their side of the story, and in the midst of you hearing it, you start thinking to yourself, well, what made that person do that? Like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you should always do that.
Yeah.
You should always think of the alternative.
But sometimes, go ahead.
Or the other side. You always have to kind of imagine that there's probably another side to the story. You probably have to, by default, assume that there's.
Yeah.
But there are some people that are so convincing when they tell their side first. They are so convincing, and they take it to such an extreme.
Yeah.
To a lot of times, they cause people to say, "You know what? I don't need to hear no more shooting."
You know what? You know what you made me think of when you said that?
I was.
That's why in court sometimes the defense doesn't want to put their client up on the stand.
That's true.
Yeah.
And it made me think of Brother Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
The lawyer was saying, Mike, I don't want you to testify. And Mike said, no, I want to tell my side of the story. And he got up there and got 6 years. So sometimes you don't need to tell your side.
There you go.
I'm sorry. That just kind of came. But it's all good. Sometimes you need to be quiet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Silence can sometimes be golden.
God knows. And you don't want to be thinking about how golden it was. You could have been quiet for 6 years. That's a lot to think about. So watch this. So what when you hear the word leaders, what do you think about? What's the first thoughts that y'all have?
Well, in simple terms,
Oh.
I think a person going somewhere and other people lining up behind him, following wherever he goes.
Elder, you got a good statement on that.
What was he said? I missed that.
One more time.
I said in its simplest form, when I think of a leader or leadership, I think of a person that's going somewhere and people lining up behind him, following wherever he goes.
So if he calls himself a leader and nobody's following him, is that kind of like he's just going for a walk?
That's exactly, as good as he might be, and he might be going to the right place at the right time, but if nobody's following him, then by default he cannot be,
Okay.
a leader.
I think that's what Pastor Forbes was kind of leading me there. But
Over here live.
But I was thinking about something, and you brought up John Maxwell, and I was looking at this 21 of those things, but the first 3 I thought were kind of maybe something we can explore a little bit. What do you think?
Oh yes, let's do that. Let's do that. We'll explore those after the break. But go and tell us what the first one is while we're at it.
The law of the lid. The law of the lid is the first one. Then there's the law of influence and the law of process.
Cool. We'll discuss those when we come back. One of the things I know in the book, when he discusses the law of the lid, he talks about how Ray Kroc noticed something, how he saw that with different restaurants he was going to sell a product to, how they were doing things, and he came across the McDonald brothers. And when he came across them, he noticed that they had things set up for speed. They had a literal machine that would put ketchup, mustard, da-da-da. And so they didn't have to sit there and spend a whole lot of time. And they had a process where this person would grab the buns, this person would put the burger in, and this person would put and they had an assembly line to make things quick, wrap it up. It's for somebody walking around, one person walking around doing this, the other person doing that. And so how it saved time and did different things, and it pulled the lid up on the company. But on that note, we'll be back after the sponsorship break on 107.5 FM.
Hello, my name is Dr. Wiley Nithon. Thank you for listening to Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU.
Hi, hope you're having a wonderful day. My name is Apostle Dana Lynn Edwards. I am here to invite you to a new show that will be premiering October 5th, 2 p.m. Saturday. It is Ask the Pastor. You can ask questions that have always been on your mind about your Bible and your walk with Jesus. Looking forward to you joining us. Again, that is Saturday, October 5th, 2 p.m.
What about safeguarding your location on social media? Stay tuned.
That's attorney David Gibbs Jr. And this is the Legal Alert.
The advantages and disadvantages of modern technology require ongoing education for our teens and our families. Based on all the clients we have helped, the Christian Law Association strongly recommends that you only post broad information about your geographical location online. Listing a state or a very large city is fine, but you should never post a specific address or the name of a small town, because doing so could jeopardize your personal safety and the safety of your children. Additionally, never ever post that you are home alone. This is especially true for children. Criminals and child predators can easily use this information to endanger the lives of your family. Be careful when you post online. It's a trap area.
If you'd like to continue today's conversation online, head to our website, christianlaw.org. You'll find all kinds of great tools, including legal brochures, case updates, our e-alert newsletter, and a complete publication catalog. All free and all waiting for you now at christianlaw.org.
You're listening to Awesome Radio, WECU, 107.5 FM, 1570 AM. Christian media with the spirit of excellence.
Surely in the famine, God is with me. Surely in the famine, God is with me. Surely in the famine, God is with me.
All right, Elder, let's start off. We're on 107.5 AM, Awesome Radio. Elder, let's start off with the first one, the law of the lid. Talk to us.
Well, essentially what the law of the lid is you can't lead anybody past what you know. I mean, that's essentially what I think from my remembrance what it actually is saying. In other words, you got your limit as far as whatever your experience, education, or whatever has taken you. you can't take anybody else further than that. You know, and that comes into play. You mentioned McDonald's. McDonald's was a small, good little company that did hamburgers. They were good, but when the other guys came in, they figured out how to take it further than where it was, and made it what it was. But the guys that created it weren't able to do that. That's the same thing with a whole lot of different things. The computer was the same way. IBM didn't invent the computer, but they were able to take it further than the inventors had made. And I think that's true in churches. I think in any other endeavor, sometimes people, and this is just something that I remember reading years ago about, some people will take a company and build it to a certain level, but they can't go any further. And a lot of times they'll sell it because they understand their limits. And they may start another company, but they'll take it to a certain level, and then other people will take it further. And so everybody doesn't have the same skill set, and you need to know where yours is, where your limitations are, and what, you know, and know when you need help.
What do you got to say to that, Pastor Lawson?
Yeah, that's very true. There are some people that there is a lid or ceiling on how far they're going to go with a certain thing. The guy that invented Hardee's did the same thing. I think he invented Hardee's and sold it, but I think he invented 2 or 3 other companies. One of them might have been Biscuit Town. I don't know.
I know Carl Jr. is one.
Yeah, but they,
because you go further west, you hear people, and then you come to find out, you know what I'm saying? People are the same thing.
Yeah, different levels require different not only quality traits, but it also require different connections. You know, and if you want to go national, then you need to know how to deal with bankers, you know, people, bankers and investors, people that's going to give you the funds so that you can do this expansion. But the people that invent the stuff, they know the product. They know what they put a good product on the table. But the next person in the level is a person that came with the good marketing scheme.
Can I tell y'all something? Let me give y'all a little, because when you named that company, let me give y'all a little insight in case y'all didn't know.
Okay.
Do anybody, can you tell me where the inventor of Hardee's from? Greenville, North Carolina.
Yeah, it's North Carolina.
Yeah, Greenville.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Wilbur Hardy opened his namesake restaurant in Greenville, North Carolina, September 3rd, 1960, after a year of success. So then it moved to, I did know about the Rocky Mount aspect. Yeah. And so a lot of times people didn't even know, right here in Greenville, it was started here. Now it don't give enough information to let us know. But the point is, then it turned around. Roy Rogers bought the restaurant, and that's why you don't really hear about it. And then turn around. So Roy Rogers also bought it. Then you turn around, and then it went through the hands of Carl Jr. And then on and on. And so, but we ain't talking there to promote these companies. What we're talking about is leadership, because we got to, I did this thing there a couple of years ago, and I thought about it yesterday. I said, I'm firing myself as pastor. I got sick of me. I said, let me get out of my way, and we'll start this all over again. And I said, we're going to take what I know the natural abilities are the people in my church. We had a leadership meeting last night. And I said, we're going to look at the leadership abilities that they do have. And we're going to, and we talked about what was a leader. Everybody came in and said what they thought a leader was, and decisive, this, that, the other. And then as we were talking, people start talking about different aspects of the church, and I noticed some of the things they brought out were things that we weren't doing in the church, but it was close to it. Like, for instance, somebody brought up, and I hate to do this to y'all, because I did fire Trey and Forbes last night, so just bear with me. Turned around and they said, ushers. I said, say on. That's because when you walk in the door and you get greeted by an usher, no matter how you were feeling, an usher, when you first walk in and they say, good morning, how are you doing? It can change how you're feeling. Might be feeling bad the whole day, might be wrestling with things, but then they start pushing the current to that things are getting better. Them, hey, would you like to sit here? Would you like a mint? Would you like a tissue? Would you? And that they said, and so, but the person that they thought, now watch this, the person that they brought up was my wife, which was Crystal. When you first come in the door, she come out of nowhere. How you doing? Good morning. Good to see you. You look nice today. You see what I'm saying? But having that, even though our church don't have ushers yet, because we've been talking about reestablishing some things since COVID, because once COVID came, a lot of things dismantled because of health. But reestablishing something, so that was one thing. When they said that, I said, okay. My thought is the next chance we're gonna have this next meeting, we're gonna ask who in the church wants. When we have church, we're gonna ask who in the church want to be an usher, and then we're gonna give you some training in that area. So that would actually, like I said, if my church was doing good, and y'all just forgive me if you don't like this, because I'm talking about my own church. Nobody can get mad. Say if my church was at a 5, maybe having someone that acted as a greeter, usher, or people that had that was your whole job is to make sure that you speak and greet people. I had one person that in the hallway when we were in our old church. Before you got up to our church, when you came in, I said, I want you to tell people good morning. Not that you're saying to them, how is your morning? I said, but I want you to speak to them in such a way to say, as if you're declaring and decreeing, good morning. That you can help change. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And so that's one way that we can change the dynamic. But okay, I'm not going to go into just church because I ain't. But just being able to see that you can raise the lid by increasing things. One of the best ways to do it is to take a survey, or to ask people, how could things get better? I actually was going to go in and tell everybody, hey, what's the worst stuff in our church? I was going to pull that yesterday on phone. Yeah, I would say, what's the worst thing? Because 9 out of 10 people are talking about it anyway. And they think that the pastor is so in a place where he's nose blind. You know what nose blind is. When you walk into the house, maybe you had trash in a room, and maybe you woke up in that room and you walked out of it, you walked back in the room, you're like, who is stinking this room? Yeah. Well, maybe you had too much gas. Okay, I'm on.
Stop picking on old people.
Yeah, and I am joining that community soon. But anyway, my whole point is we need to find out what's good and what's bad going on in our operations and even in our home. I never had a problem with asking my wife, baby, what could I do to be a better husband? I've asked her that. Now, I ain't asked her that in the last 10 years, maybe because I don't want to hear her tell it. I had a lot, being young, you don't mind some things. As you get older, you already settled and support. And then my wife said, and I'm going to tell you what my wife said to me, then we'll move on. She said, baby, you are perfect. Yada, 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 yada. I said, well, I don't know, baby. She kept doing that. I said, and this is within being married in a 10-year span. I said, you know what? I could be more romantic. And she sat there and she said, well, tell me about it. And so I
walked away with perfect.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to. But I thought about it. And then at that time, I started saying, and I put in my mind, every 2 months, I'm going to buy her flower or candy. And I did that. And so it made things better. She loved that. And I wasn't thoughtful. I thought to myself, I ain't really that thoughtful. I'm thoughtful in other ways. I pay bills, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I try to go to the gas tank so she don't have. I do other things. But I said, I'm going to try to increase this. Now, me saying it now, I got to say, I got to go and get back in the rotation. I'm going to buy some flowers. Ask me next week, maybe not even on the show, did I buy some flowers? I'm going to buy some. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, it ain't cost me a whole lot. But
that brings up something. A thought came to my mind. You know, the other day when I saw two homeless people walking down the street.
And, they'd rather have a sandwich than some flowers.
And they were holding hands, and you know, like they were so in love. And I thought to myself, is she happy with that?
Yes. And that's something.
Because you know, I don't know. I was just kind of wondering, would she be more happier if he would get a job and put her in a house?
Probably so. But sometimes
walking the street, you know, holding hands, but homeless and having to beg and stuff like that. So I think about that when you said, you know, I haven't been buying the flowers, but I have been doing the paying the rent, and both those things are
actually mortgage.
Yeah. Both those things are important. Yeah. You know, and so you know, when you go to a lot of seminars, you hear about the flowers and the open the door for me, and you know, so that joker might just not have a car. So.
Can I tell you something?
Go ahead.
Watch this. I was listening, and Elder, I know that kind of squeezes you out a little bit. Because you got to sit here and listen to us talk, right? But I want to say,
you're good.
Watch this. I was sitting in a marriage seminar, I was sitting in Bible college class, and this man was talking about that morning he got up and he cut up some tomatoes and something else for his wife, and because he knows she liked it, and all the women said, ah. And they were like, and the women looked at each other, and they looked at their husbands. And I thought about the one woman that looked at her husband. I thought to myself, your husband is a mechanic. He fixed your car, and you don't have to ever worry about that. You know what I'm saying? I know this guy. He fixes her car. And so you going over there about that tomato, but he provides something. But so that was just my thought. But go ahead, Elder. I'm gonna give you this next shot. But we gotta recognize what other people do. That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
You know, because that woman might have just been satisfied with somebody would hold her hand and maybe didn't beat her, and maybe they did have a house or somewhere to stay before, and they lost it. And maybe her thought is, this man is going. He even though we on the bottom, he's gonna take us back to the top. Now that's just me being creative.
So you guys went from the law of the lid to marriage counseling.
Yeah,
but it's all good.
I'm gonna be honest. I think Pastor Lawson was trying to raise the lid for the fellow and say, hey, when he ain't want that, go up to him and say, hey, bro, you go get a job. She happy with you holding her hand. You gonna really have something. you put some groceries on the table and a roof over her head.
Or she might need somebody that can go to the next level.
Let me get off this. All right, we'll go to the next thing, Elder.
You better be careful, buddy.
Next thing, go ahead, Elder.
They were thinking on the same level. The next one is the law of influence. I think this is a big deal. I think if you're a leader, you need to have influence. The influence that you have, you know, in your company, church, or whatever. Influence is important. A lot of times people say it's not what you know, it's who you know, and all that other stuff. But who do you have influence with? Or as one friend of mine used to say, who knows you? Not who you know, who knows you, you know? But influence is well, what John says is the true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. What do y'all think about that?
Well, I think that's a bigger deal now than it was when he was still, you know, writing a lot of books and stuff. I mean, he still may be writing books, but with social media, there's a big challenge to influence. Used to a pastor or a doctor and many professional people had stronger influence over their patients and their constituents. But now, you know, a doctor will tell a patient something to do. The patient comes back. I saw on Google. I looked at Google.
I don't need to be taking this medicine right here. And the same thing with a pastor. A pastor, you know, he could be doing everything he can to give his people sound doctrine, but there's so much social media that's accessible to them that, you know, they could come back. You could give them a real good hot message teaching, blah, blah, blah. They come back and they've got, you know, 4 or 5 different other ways to go with that.
Yeah, that's true.
So being an influencer now, and everybody's getting into the influencing business.
Oh God,
I've
every
never
platform,
Oh man,
every single social
it's
media
a industry.
platform, you can get paid.
It's never been such of an industry as it is right now. You know, with you know, even the military. The military is being influenced by social media because, you know, they try to contain what they do, and then, you know, the military is always hearing other voices now. I feel like you might can relate to that.
But I think the law, what he is actually, I think, saying as a leader, you have to figure out how to have the influence in your the place that you are a leader in, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm just saying that it's a bigger challenge now.
Right. I understand that. Yeah.
Because you got people vying for, like, for instance, I remember when the pastor could get up and say, tithe. Now, all they got to do is write tithe in Google, and you could turn around and have 10 videos off whatever platform, social media platform, telling folk why tithing ain't for the day. You don't have to tithe. This and that. Try this. Try that. Try this instead of tithing. Go give it to a homeless person. You know, give to a homeless and different things, and your little piece of authority go right out the window by just having that other current going.
But I don't quite go with. I think your influence as pastors have more to do with your personal relationship with your congregants.
I totally agree.
And I think that will overshadow a lot of the influence from the outside.
Well, I would respond as a pastor and say it ought to. Yeah. So I get where you're going with that. My influence over my constituents ought to be strong enough to not worry about, you know, the invasion of social media. You know, it ought to be. I want it to be. I strive for it to be. Mm-hmm. But to be honest with you, they are a lot of my constituents, and as well as any other pastor in this world that are being influenced by people outside of my ministry.
So it's a constant challenge.
Yeah, it's a constant challenge, and you're not going to bat 1,000 every time. Like, for instance, you know, Adam's influence on Eve, you know, since you brought them up early, was pretty good until she met that other fella. You know, that fella sliding around among the trees. You know, Adam couldn't do that. She ain't never seen Adam slide through the trees like that. and literally, Adam became bored. You're bored.
Yeah, and look, and then here it is. Here comes the serpent. I mean, you heard they actually had God walk with them every single day.
Yeah,
every single day. And then here you go. Yeah, did God really say that? All it did was a different current to go another way. But you can take us out, Pastor Lawson.
Oh my!
Yeah, and one quick.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, it is.
What a wonderful topic, leadership. We could do this topic many times. But we thank God for all of you that have, you know, tuned in with us. We thank you for joining. Real Talk, Real Men on Awesome Radio. We'll see you next Thursday.
You with me.